Hello, and welcome to the War in the Pacific, where it is the 1st of February, 1942, in the Wirraway versus Encircled play-by-mail campaign. Major operations for the Japanese this turn are landings on northern Luzon. See, we're sweeping mines at Surabaja, recently captured. Betty's conducting a moonlit raid on Clark Field. B-17s attacking Cameron Bay. Nothing in port at Cameron Bay. I have some damaged light cruisers making their way to the shipyard at Singapore. They're not in danger of sinking, but obviously having trouble with leaky bulkheads or something similar. Small patrol craft on ASW duties off Karachi. I'm trying to keep I-162's head down. Jake sighted an allied ship off Marcus Island. It's an escapee from the Philippines. Oscar's sweeping Cian. Zero's sweeping Clark. Zero's sweeping Kangu. Oscar's sweeping Kopang. Sally's, Sonia's, and Lily's. Striking the airfield and Chinese troops at Xi'an. More Sally's. So the Chinese divisions at Tunggu appear to be trying to move due east into the wooded rough, which makes sense. So we're trying to consistently over the last week knock them out of move mode so that the Imperial Guards and other units can get into the hex and attack them before they go from the ×2 terrain to the ×3. So the purpose of the attacks at the left turn, again, I believe this is his seaplane base. Um, Destroying the runway doesn't do anything. knocking out supply and doing airbase will eventually reduce the ability of him to operate there. But this is likely to be about to become a moot point as these fast transport task forces that appear on the enemy recon are on the way to deliver special naval landing force units to take that turn. And we have reinforcements coming to finish off Kopang, which will wrap up our the battle for Timor, which has been protracted, though neither side has committed significant forces to it. Okay, so I wasn't sure if he had detected our amphibious transports. It didn't appear so, but either he had or he had his Air Force with a planned response. P-35s escorting Catalinas and Wildebeest. So there's an escort carrier in the Hex with the in the amphibious landing task force. Hate to see Catalinas used in this way. I know many people do. My cap is pretty light. I actually have an escort carrier with 14 zeros, might have been 15 zeros on board her. And then I have a light carrier right one hex away. I would have expected my cap to be twice this, so I have to look into those settings and see what's going on. Doesn't look likely to be decisive because either he was, well, his Air Force isn't very capable at this point of defending the Philippines. Wirraway gets a 100-pound bomb into a transport. Now the rest of the Oscars come in on the sweep at Kopang. More zeros sweeping Tengu. He hasn't attempted to put up cap to either of those sites in weeks. Let's see if he has more attacks. I timed my amphibious landing this time on northern Luzon. Such that the they won't begin offloading till the end of the turn. Betty's seeking the two uh, Allied destroyers, American destroyers that were hiding out in the Solomons after attempting to raid Tulagi. One of them's crippled. They don't appear to be at Pengoa anymore. I didn't get a sniff of them leaving, so not sure where they went. So the wildebeests get in under the cap, and as is typical of the slow-moving biplanes, if they get in, they do damage. Looks like they hit a transport, probably with either one. Yeah, it looks like probably one of my aviation units on board. Okay, so we should offload now. Now, why did I do this? Normally, I would time it so I have the maximum offloading cycles, but we rushed in because it didn't appear he had the previous day sighted the transports and they were within range. So I thought the surprise would be um, the better trade-off versus the number of offload cycles. And it looks like it worked out. Here we go. So what I'm primarily worried about is not his Air Force, but his PT boats, and he still has a destroyer squadron of flush deck American destroyers operating out of Manila. And I don't have a. This is pretty typical. There's 3 divisions landing, 9 to 10 squads destroyed. Some here, a tank regiment is wrecking a Philippine division. Okay, so what does he have at Sian? Nothing. So next turn, I'll attack with just enough combat power to force all these to retreat, and then everybody else in pursuit. Don't want to destroy these units, just want to force them to retreat and drag my units northward with. So 293 raw AV down to about 270-ish raw. So a division or two in the assault, and then everybody else can pursue next turn. Ah, interesting. An entire Philippine infantry division is sitting in clear terrain. Uh, that's an interesting decision. I had originally, early on, in the first few days of the campaign, fainted towards northern Luzon, dropped some paratroopers, sent deception and amphibious task force towards Loeg. He counterattacked. This was 6 weeks or so ago now, and I had withdrawn the forces before the Philippine division arrived. But it looks like either he left it there, um, potentially out of complacency, or he had another plan in mind. But that's going to be 150 AV plus that would have been better served in ×3 terrain, because it's just going to get crushed here. The FMSV brigade finally surrenders to the tie. Oh, he had scattered another. So platoon of paratroopers takes out a couple squads of Marine engineers. Oh, didn't expect, didn't entirely expect him to have left patrol aircraft. He didn't perhaps realize that I had moved my paratroopers forward to Suva, but he knows I have paratroopers in theater um, in Sopak, and to leave valuable patrol aircraft very lightly defended, single squad or two of Marine engineers. Uh, he's done this a couple times and uh, lost quite a few patrol aircraft. Paratroopers cleaning up dock bases in the Solomons looking for uh, those missing destroyers. Okay, we'll speed through the end of this. Looks like landings at Luzon went off without any significant issues. He'll certainly counterattack next turn. Let's first take a look at just what happened in the air battle. As you, oh, very high operational losses for the Allies. Let's take a look at what's going on. Looks like there were almost probably a full squadron, nearly a full squadron of PBY-5s destroyed in Sopak when the paratroopers dropped, not just 5 aircraft. That's a pretty big loss to his ability to watch what I'm up to in Sopak. And the PBY-4s, of course, committed in the anti-shipping role, suffered. P-35 as escorts suffered. The Wirraway suffered. A couple ops losses and zeros. Another Catalina 1. British or Dutch. Again, not critical and pretty typical of what you'd expect in these circumstances. Again, I'm a little puzzled as to why my cap was so light, but let's take a look at what's going on here. So you can see Shoho. Shoho is loaded with zeros, cap set to range of 1 at multiple altitudes, but it doesn't look like Shoho's cap got involved at all. So it looks like I didn't get any cap bleed here. It could have long range cap, uh, not wanting to put the light cruiser actually into the base hex. I'm sorry, light carrier into the base hex. But I didn't get any cap bleed, which is part of the reason why my cap was so light. Let's take a look. Hosho, who started off with either 14 or 15 Tynan Coup zeros, no pilot losses. So I had cap set to 60, could have done 100, but I was anticipating I had surprise. Probably should have done 100. I didn't mean to set their range to 1. I meant to set their range to 0. And this is why my cap was even lighter. Plenty of kills for Tiny Ku's breakout unit, C unit. Um, they started this particular campaign on northern Luzon just a few days ago with no kills. Let's take a look at damage. Yes, as I suspected, that one transport that was hit hard by the wildebeest was carrying part of a JAF Air Force battalion. I will assign an empty transport, a lifeboat unit, to this escort task force. So when that ship invariably sinks, we save some of the survivors. And it looks like still have about 20,000 devices to offload, quite a bit of supply, but the major combat power, most of the combat power of the three divisions is well ashore, along with 4 heavy artillery battalions. They're missing their motorized transport, but guns are all ashore. 30-centimeter howitzers have decent range, so they're important for not getting in a one-sided artillery duel uh, here and around Clark, which is eventually going to happen. Of course, the best Japanese artillery are the T-89 150 millimeter, 15 centimeter T-89 guns. They're the only thing, along with the 100 or the 10-centimeter guns, that have comparable ranges to the better British and American artillery pieces. Of course, none of them match the long toms, but they come close. You can, didn't mean, if you don't spend much time in this, it's useful just to be familiar with the capabilities of the Allied guns in terms of their range. There's the long tom at 25 miles. Nothing the Japanese have can match that as far as the army weapon. The T-45s you don't currently have available. They're excellent gun. Note the British 4.5s, 22 miles. And then when you get down into your more typical guns, you can start to see. So here's your 15 centimeter T-89s and your 10 centimeter T-92s, both with a range of 20, which is decent. And then the best you really have is down around 15 miles. Note American 155s, 16 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 centimeter T-96s, which you don't have many of, have decent range. 25 miles. Your 24 sort this differently. So there are your 30 centimeter howitzer eyes at 16 miles, uh, which is one of the reasons why I buy them out and use them. Note your 28 centimeter howitzers are short range weapons only. Again, you don't have the T-96s, T-45s only have 11-mile range. Okay, enough of artillery. Let's take a look just quickly around the map. Aleutians, we have more engineers heading to Amchitka. We've talked about the Xi'an front. We're going to chase these guys north into what presumably will be his main defensive belt north of Xi'an. We'll see what this whole zone looks like as we press forward. In the south, the rest of our divisions for the drive on Wuchao are just about in Canton. Philippines, we're going to drive down the coast, cut inland, and try to take Manila from the north while bringing in reinforcements to sit on his troops at Clark and continuing the supporting drive from Mindanao into southern Luzon. Need to wrap up our campaign on Timor, but there's no rush. And we're now ready to redeploy forces from Java and from Singapore for phase 2 operations as our preparatory landings along Sumatra to blind his or remove his ability to monitor our ships through the Straits of Malacca. And we've got an amphibious invasion task force heading for Port Blair, though he hasn't been operating patrol aircraft recently out of Port Blair. So we're going to take it anyway. So give us more freedom in the Indian Ocean. Then we have troops arriving at Suva. These are a JAF base force, a ADA units, and engineers to build up Suva. And we're still waiting for these units to recover a bit more before we conduct any follow-on operations south of Fiji. But again, a nice surprise take of wiping out some of his PBYs, reverse PBYs, so that will make it harder for him to watch what we're up to. Anyway, that's it for this particular turn. I look forward to our next chance to talk.